Welcome, everybody, to today's webinar about meeting well as a habit using Lucid Meetings. My name is Tricia. I am the product evangelist here at Lucid Meetings, and I'm here today with our co-founders, John and Elise Keith, who will spend just over 20 minutes walking you through the platform. If you have any questions, please type them in the questions box. I'll be watching it, and we'll take some time at the end to go over these questions. We are recording this session, and we will send out a link to the recording later. Okay, let's jump right in. Over to you, Elise.
Thanks, Tricia. Okay, so welcome everybody to today's webinar. This is the final demo in our series. As we've talked about before, Lucid Meetings is designed to make it easy for everyone in your organization to run consistently worthwhile meetings, or in other words, to make meetings well a habitual part of your organization's culture. Now, if you joined us before, you've seen this Maslow's hierarchy of meeting technology that we use to talk about the platform. Now, if you want to create good meeting habits, you need the same kind of support that you want when you're trying to create any kind of healthy habit, healthy eating or exercise. Before you can ever worry about being really effective or productive, you have to have your basics covered. So in our first two sessions, we covered those basics. On Tuesday, we talked about getting the meetings on the calendar and joining the call, those bare minimum requirements for any meeting. Then yesterday, we looked at creating an agenda and capturing meeting notes and all the features you need as an individual working to run a decent meeting. And we'll share the recordings with those if you happen to miss those sessions. Now today, we're going to focus up here at the top of the pyramid on how to set your organization up in Lucid to encourage meeting well as a regular habit, or in other words, striving for this systematic excellence in your meetings. So what do we mean, before we jump into the features, by systematic excellence? Well, obviously that's going to depend on the size and nature of your organization. But in essence, we're talking about meeting up the performance maturity model past these lower levels. So at a level 1 or a level 2 maturity of performance in your meetings, your organization may run great meetings. They may be fabulous. But if they are, that's going to be because the individuals who happen to be running those meetings are skilled. So it's really about personal performance. And when we move up into level 3, 4, and 5, now we're starting to look at how the organization can design a process for running successfully and manage that process throughout the organization, which gives you some resilience in case the person who's good at the meetings happens to be sick that day, or you have to have meetings run by more people than just 1 or 2. So from the platform perspective, the things we're going to show you today are how to set up your organization, how to get it structured for that kind of success. We're going to focus quite a bit on how to create and use templates, which is really where the bulk of your process gets defined. And then finally, we'll look at some reports that help you monitor the meeting's success over time. Now, this is a lot to cover in a short time, so rather than switch back before, like we did before, I'm just going to walk you through each feature, and John's going to jump in to comment and answer questions as we go. So, with that, give me a second here while I switch over to my other screen. And let's dive in to looking at some software. All right, let's just look right there. Okay, so here I am in Lucid Meetings, and we're going to look first at how to get organized. The features that we're going to cover here are about.
Elise, I'm not.
John says he's not seeing my screen. Let me try this again.
Great.
And now?
Perfect.
Hooray, we're on. Okay. So we're going to talk about how to get organized. I'm going to start by going and clicking on the menu here in the top left corner, which is going to give you a glimpse into how I've already set up our organization. And after the things that are about me, I can see the organizations that I belong to, or my accounts, and then meeting rooms within those accounts. Now, to get to the place where I do all this setup, I go ahead and click on the organization name. In this case, it's the Lucid Meetings name. And here's where I do all of the setup. At the very, very top level, I can see kind of how many people are participating and get some basic stats about, how busy we are, how many action items we've managed, all of that. And across the top, I've got different tools for managing different aspects of my setup. We're going to focus first on rooms. So the meeting room is the place where all of the meetings happen. So every single meeting in the system happens within one of these spaces. And the rooms do a couple of things for you. First of all, they help you organize your records. So if you, for example, have all of your marketing meetings in a space, when you go into the marketing committee, you can go ahead and review everything that's happened there. You get basically a folder structure that way. They also create privacy. So if you need to be having meetings as an executive team or board, or you want to have spaces where, my secret society is one customer and Acme is another, I don't necessarily want them to have visibility into each other's work, so I can put those in different rooms, and that'll give me a sense of privacy that way. Once you get into a room, there's where all of your meetings happen. That room will show you any documents that have been reviewed there, the history of action items that have been tracked, and then the people involved in that room. So within each and every space, you can create a team of people, and then that team of people has access and visibility into the entire meeting history that's happened in that space. John, do you want to share a little bit of any other tips about when to set up a room or how you would use those?
Sure. So for us, I generally keep a room for myself that I have available with a public link. We talked a little bit about that yesterday, so that I can easily create meetings with only guests. So I will tend to have myself and maybe a couple of team members, but I mostly use it for meeting with people outside the company. We almost always create a room per long-running project. What we'll typically do is start a project discussion or a work discussion with a new customer in a shared room, just to sort of get things started as a guest. And once that turns into an ongoing piece of work, we create a new room and make the customer a team member in that room, so that the customer and all the customers' people have full access to all the information. Those are a couple things. I think one other thing that is important on the room stuff that I'm not quite sure if you touched on is that guests in the room do not actually see any other information in the room except the meetings, the specific meetings to which they were invited. That's a really important consideration when you have a shared space, but you don't want, for convenience, but you don't want everybody to see all the information that's taken place over the last couple of years in that room.
Well, I think that leads into the next thing that we need to look at. So in terms of getting your organization set up for success, creating spaces and privacy where you can have the meetings is one part. And then the next part is determining who's going to be in there collaborating with you and what they can do. And at the organization level, you can see this listing of all of the people in your organization. And I can click on any of them to get a little bit more information about them. So Amy, for example, has been in here. Here are the rooms that she participates in. I can filter this list so that I want to see only the guests, or I can find somebody in specific to look at. And I have control, and my go-to thing is right over the top before I need to do this. So if, for example, I wanted to make Ashley, or Amy here, have more permissions, I can click the drop-down arrow here next to Actions, and I can do things like assign her to different rooms, so I can add her to a bunch of different spaces at once. I can make her a guest, which will remove her access to all of the meeting records. She can no longer get in and see things in the past, but it's not going to remove her account. So I'll still know that she attended a meeting. She can still, be assigned to action items. She just won't have the ability to log in and rifle through my records. Or I can make her an administrator, which will give her the ability to define new rooms and go ahead and create ways for other people to work so she can help me run this organization. So we've looked a little bit at rooms, we looked at people. There are reports here talk mostly about action item history, so how well are you doing on resolving those over time. In this demo site, we really don't have very interesting action items, so there's not much to show here. But in your organization, you can see them here, and then you can click right in to go and look at the details behind those. And then finally, the more detailed and interesting settings for setting up your account are here on the, go figure, on the settings page. And here's where you're going to set up the technology that your organization will use and the preferences about how you want things to behave. And I'm not going to go into details on all of this because we're going to be kind of short on time otherwise. But just so that you know, up here you can turn on different integrations. So if your organization wants to use Skype or Basecamp or something like that, all of the new integrations are here, and then you can configure them by looking to see what's in place. So I can go and configure, how we are connected, for example, to Basecamp. And there are a lot of settings here about exactly how the rooms that I have align with the projects that I work, and you'll see that kind of thing with several of the other integrations as well. So you get to control at a very granular level how your organization operates. And then the next piece that becomes very interesting about how you control your process is when you deal with the templates that are involved in your organization. So before we dive into templates, which is our next big topic, are there any questions that we should answer at this point?
Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to just enter them in the questions box before we move on to templates, and we can take those and answer them while we're in the rooms area.
And without any questions, we'll keep moving, and then we'll circle back at the end. We can always ask questions there too.
Perfect.
So here I am in, this is my organization again, and I'm looking at the list of templates that we've set up for use in our meetings. So when we look back at that meeting performance maturity model, at those bottom levels, the kinds of templates you might use would be something like a basic agenda, where you have a skilled person leading the meeting, and they can hop in and sort of define it on the go. Now, as you have more complicated processes and begin to work with larger teams, you might set up other templates that give you a little bit more structure. And a template in Lucid Meetings operates on a couple of levels. At the most basic, it operates a lot like a PowerPoint template, right? It gives you an agenda that will start your meeting. It'll fill out your meeting defaults for you, and then from there you can edit it to be specific to that particular meeting. It will go ahead and create the meeting settings for you. So, should you have had the speaker queue on? Should you have should everybody be a note taker? Should everybody be able to edit this agenda? So a lot of those defaults will be set up for you in the template. So very much like a PowerPoint. The other thing that a template does, however, is it acts as a tutorial. So if I go and I look at this top level information about this template, this particular template is a project kickoff, which is one of the templates that came from the Lucid Meetings gallery. At the top I have a little bit of basic information about the template itself. I have some demographic information about when and how to use this project, this kind of template. So this meeting and running a meeting in this way is appropriate only if you've got 2 to 10 people. It's really meant for projects. It's not really meant for products. Things like that will be here. And then perhaps most valuable of all, there's usually a very detailed guide that you can find with every template. Some high-level information and then a detailed guide. And this detailed guide that you'll find with the template will tell people exactly what they need to do. Any step-by-step what they need to do, as they get to different parts of the meeting, exactly what they should say to go ahead and introduce each of the topics. So let's go and take a look at a step-by-step. We'll link out to things like videos. We'll link out to detailed information about techniques. And this is the kind of thing you're going to find with the template that came from the Lucid Meetings gallery. And the also the kind of material that you have the opportunity to put in place when you are setting up templates that are specific to your organization. Templates get into your account one of 4 ways. First, as we've alluded, you can add a template from the template gallery. This template gallery includes templates that have been authored by Lucid Meetings staff. It's also includes templates for experts in their field. And at the top of the gallery, you can do some filtering to say, okay, I need to do basically a status meeting that lasts no more than 15 minutes. Great, here's what I've got. Let's go ahead and take a look at that one. Up 45 minutes, a little long. What are the details here? That looks like it's what I need. I'm going to go ahead and add this template. And then you can add that to wherever you need it to be. So that's one way to create a template. Another way you can create a template is in your settings and in your templates. You can literally create a new template from scratch. And this process will walk you through setting up not only your agenda and your invitation information, your settings, but also this top-level guidance information that helps people know when and how to use this template. You can also create a template by copying an existing meeting or copying an existing template and then editing from there. Now, the final thing I want to show you about templates before we look at reports is how you control where they get used. So we talked about earlier using the rooms to set up our structure. I have these kinds of meetings in this room and these kinds of meetings in that room. The next layer of process design that you can put on here is which templates become available in which rooms. So in this case, I'm looking at a cross-functional team update. This is basically a meeting that helps management teams stay intact. And I can see when I'm looking at it here at my organization level that it's available for every single one of the meeting rooms. But John, in his private room, never needs to do a cross-functional management meeting with himself. That's just silly beans. So we'll just take that out. And my sales team also doesn't run a cross-functional meeting. They run demos with clients. So I can control which rooms this template shows up in. When people in that room go to add a meeting, they will no longer see this template. We see this especially come in handy for teams that are dealing with things like sales material. So if you have a standardized sales demo, you can create a template for that in your organization. And up here at the top, anytime you change that agenda, anytime you upload a new sales deck, that becomes something that every one of the salespeople in their individual sales room instantly has available for the next meeting that they create. It just all stays instantly in sync that way. But that sales demo is never appropriate for my development team or my accounting team. They never need to worry about that. They never need to use it. So I can keep that out of their space by controlling the rooms in which it appears. So at the top level, that's how I control what kinds of meetings my organization runs and how those look. When I get back down inside the meeting rooms themselves, so if I go back and I look at the Acme Inc. projects, I can also take a further level of configuration here, creating templates that are explicit or exclusive to this meeting space. If I have, and I do this for myself, so in my personal meeting room, I run introductions with people about how to use templates, and I have meetings set up there that only I use. And here, I can then also control the order in which they show up. So if I want to make sure that the basic agenda is generally how we're running things, I can move that to the top of the list. And when I go to add a meeting, that will be selected by default. Okay, so we've looked at how to set up your organization and your structure. We've looked at defining some meeting templates that help determine how you run your meetings and how you control where those templates show up. And next I'm going to look at the reports that show you how well those meetings ran. But before we dive in, John, did you have anything to add on templates?
I'll reinforce a couple of points that I think are super important. Maybe one you didn't didn't quite hit as strongly as I would matters for me, which is I love the template gallery for the exploration aspect of looking at how different people in particular run different kinds of status meetings or other group and team meetings. You know, because a lot of the guides provide stuff that I'm not an expert in, but with the ability to go spin up a meeting and kind of walk through what the agenda looks like and what the guidance is pretty great. The other thing that I think is also a point you hit that I reinforce is that having a set of templates in your room with prepared in advance with materials that you're going to want to share for different situations is super great. So there'll be many times when I don't want to fumble around finding the presentation that I want to share. And I think yesterday you might have showed an example of showing a service level agreement or something. But there are a lot of times where we want to have access to different types of information quickly, and having those built into a template and having a set of templates that I'm familiar with makes that a lot easier. And I guess the one last point before I sign off is that we switch off a lot of times when we run meetings, and when I am put in the position of running a meeting that I only run occasionally, having the template and the guidance there really increases my confidence that I can actually run that meeting successfully on an occasional basis. So that codification of how we do things and what's worked in the past is also really great.
Well, that's a great bridge over to looking at what works and what doesn't. So you can go through your organization and set up the meeting spaces, set up the templates, and then the question becomes, okay, is that working? You know, or have I just created a bunch of overhead and hoops for my people to jump through, or are they actually, putting that process to use, and is it achieving the goals for which it is designed? And for that, we have reports. And I'm going to show you a couple of different reports. They're all the same report, but taken on different meetings. So this meeting, we did a series of templates on strategic planning. And as we were working through those, we test them. And this meeting, here's the report from our first test of a vision setting meeting. And I'm just going to talk you through the different aspects of the template. So when we look at the habits of an effective meeting, there are a number of both quantitative and qualitative things you need to do well. So one of the keys to success, based on all of the research out there, is preparation. You know, did you provide information in advance? Did people RSVP and contribute in advance of the meetings? And that information will be available at the top of your report. So it'll tell you how far in advance the invitation went out, who contributed, who RSVP'd, etc. Then you get to the next bit of quantitative value, and that's time. So you have not only the overall amount of time that you've invested, and if you're one of those people who's a really keen on numbers and budget crunching, you can go ahead and use these numbers and calculate your burdened rate and go, oh my goodness, this meeting cost us $5,000 or whatever it happens to be. So there's that level of time reporting here. The other aspect on the time reporting, though, is when you are trying to get your process right, do the conversations take the amount of time that I think they should? And sometimes you will be over or under time because of bad facilitation. Like basically somebody just went jabbering on and nobody stopped them. But sometimes what you're trying to accomplish really needs to have more time allocated to it. And as we go through and do template design, we use this part of the report a lot to tell us, okay, it looks like if you're doing strategic planning and you're going to go review vision themes, you're going to need more time than 10 minutes. There's just no way that happens in 10 minutes effectively. So these are some quantitative things. Next, I can look at participation. And this is where we talk about the quality of engagement. So if you have your meeting set up so that people can come in and they can actually interact with you, you can see what they do as it happens. You can also see some kind of important and interesting things here. You can see things like people who come in late. So their little bar will start after the meeting start time. You can see as we move through the different agenda items when we took notes, when we shared a presentation. You can see people who leave early. So in this particular case, Amy just could not put up with it anymore, and she bailed halfway through our meeting. Fair enough, it went too long. In our case, we're looking for effectiveness of the template. In some organizations, this has become very powerful when you're working with executives who then bail out of the middle of a important decision. You'll see that they weren't actually there when that was there. And then, of course, you can see the people who didn't attend. Finally, we have on the qualitative side, every meeting gets rated, and people can leave comments for the kinds of what they felt worked and what they didn't. In this case, we all thought it was fine, but we weren't sure about it yet, so there are not many comments. In this following one, and then finally, did you follow up? Did you finish your action items? Did you publish the records? Now, if I look at this meeting, this is a retrospective I ran recently, and this one on the report, I have better comments. I have different patterns of participation, different kinds of time being spent, and then you get more feedback in the comments. They're not always excellent. Sometimes it's a lot more useful when they aren't, actually. People give you some good, honest feedback. It helps improve what you're doing. So that's a little bit about how you can use the automatic reporting to investigate your process and tune what you're doing to better serve the needs of your organization and your meeting. John, do you have anything that you'd like to add about reports?
Not much. I really like looking at the visual graph of participation. I find that incredibly somewhat amusing and informative. I tend to use, mostly for myself, the specific feedback. So I actually always ask somebody when I'm meeting with somebody, particularly outside the company, to at the close of a meeting, rather than just sort of shutting off the meeting and saying, well, goodbye, see you later, I encourage them to participate one last time in helping me run a better meeting by doing some rating and commentary. And I almost always get good feedback on that, and constructive feedback that I put to work. And that's my favorite part of it.
Yeah, I do too, actually. And if you even look at the feedback I'm looking at here, while both ratings are excellent, there were suggested improvements to this agenda. So sometimes people will give you a great rating just because they're nice people, and then they will all tell you what you needed to fix. So, whatever works, as long as you can get that feedback and make your process better. Okay, well, that's a quick overview of how to organize, set up your organization, how to define templates for the processes that you run, and then how to examine whether the processes that you are running are being executed effectively. We're just about out of time. Are there any other questions we can answer today?
Yeah, one of them just came in, and if any of you have questions, please feel free to go ahead and type them in the questions box. The question that came in was, is it possible to watch these presentations again? And the answer is yes. As I have been recording these, so I will be posting them we will actually have them hosted at YouTube, but we will send them out in an email, a follow-up email, so you can rewatch them. I know we covered a lot of content, so you probably want to go through a couple of these again just to make sure that you're getting it all straight. We definitely will do that. Any other questions? Well, statement. This looks like a
questions.
Someone said, thanks, this looks like a fantastic tool. So we appreciate that. We work really hard. John and Elise work very hard on making that happen. Okay, well, did you have something?
No, I was just going to say, if you do have more questions afterwards, you can always catch us by email, and that email will be something that will be included in the information that you get. Also, if you didn't catch it earlier, we do have a handout in the handouts section of GoTo. That one includes some information about, running effective meetings, but also a process that as you work your organization up to level 4 and 5, that you can use to evaluate whether your meetings are being well designed on an ongoing basis. So that's included as sort of a bonus in that PDF.
Yep. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope to talk to all of you soon. I appreciate all the great feedback. Have a great day.